Thank you so much for joining me this evening or this morning, depending where you are. As you can probably tell, it's definitely evening here and very wintry in the UK. So we're going to head to Kenya this evening with Naibor Camps. Naibor has been a client of Small World Marketing's for about 17 years, so one of our oldest clients. And it's such a solid safari camp in one of the most fantastic locations in the heart of the Maasai Mara. So it is really well established, and we really hardly get complaints ever for Naibor. It's just such a safe sell, really. So for those of you who don't know Kenya quite as well, you've got Nairobi just here, where many international travellers will fly into, and then flying from Wilson into the Mara, which is down here on the border with Tanzania. So we are, as you can see, right in the heart of the Maasai Mara. Our nearest airstrip is Old Kiombo, so that is where guests will fly into and then be driven into camp. So that drive is always so exciting. You know, it can probably be done in about 10 or 15 minutes, but obviously always takes longer because you want to stop for absolutely everything when you've just arrived. As you can see, we've also got detailed on here the migration route, which of course it changes its nature. It's not always exactly. Here we get great herds during August, and we actually also get really good sightings in October, which is kind of like the secret season, because you can still have amazing herds and crossings, but it moves into our low season rate. So it's a really great season to come in. This is a slightly less professional map of the camp, but it does the job. So you've got Naibor Camps is made up of 3 small camps, and it is all across this bend in the Talek River. So they're really easily accessible from one another, but in general, you would stay in one of these 3, depending on the demographics. So we've got Main Naibor, which is 7 tents. We've got Little Naibor up here, which is 2 double tented suites. So they have a twin and a double room each, and they share a mess area with Main Naibor. And then we've got Naibor Wilderness, which is kind of operates like its own sort of exclusive use camp. It's got its private mess area there, and it is great for smaller groups or kind of photography groups or larger families. So just going over that again, so Naibor Wilderness would be considered the kind of entry-level product. It is slightly lower priced than Main Naibor and Little Naibor, and it is slightly more simple in its design style. That being said, the tents are the same size. They're huge, great big tents, and it is really beautiful camp. And some people actually prefer it here because it can be taken as a private camp. So it does feel really small and intimate, which is lovely. We've then got Main Naibor, which has the 7 tents. They are doubles, and then we've got 2 twins. So 5 doubles and 2 twins. We can add extra beds in here quite easily. You can add definitely 1 extra rollaway bed. You could even put 2 in if guests, couldn't get space in Little Naibor for some reason or something like that. Then we've in Little Naibor, these are the perfect tents for families. There's 2 of these, and they both have 2 rooms, both en suite. So, and then connected by this sort of main living area in the middle. So as I said, in terms of location, we're on the Talek River, which is a tributary of the Mara River and is in the heart of the Maasai Mara. We're 40 minutes from Wilson by flight. Most guests fly in and fly out. You can also drive, and actually 6 hours is probably quite long for how long it would take. It probably takes about 4 now, because it's got a paved road all the way to the gate of the Mara, and then it probably takes longer actually getting across the Mara because obviously you're stopping all the time, and it's sort of rougher terrain. This just gives you a quick idea of our rates. These have remained the same from last year, and we have a really great seasonal offer. So 4 nights for the price of 3 and 3 for 2 in the low season. So that is available throughout the year, just depends on the season. And that is carried over from last year as well. I will send you all of the rates and everything in a follow-up, so don't worry about those. So Main Naibor has got 7 of these beautiful big tents. They're that real classic kind of out of Africa style tented suite with this lovely chunky sort of fig wood furniture. as well. So it's a really beautiful, just very clean and pristine sort of space. And there are a few little changes that are happening in the camps at the moment, and we will have hopefully photos of all of those in kind of early next year. So there are a few little tweaks that are going on. We've had new owners come in the last few years, and they're sort of getting more involved and making just some little upgrades just to kind of elevate it again, because it is so beautiful and it has been here for such a long time. Just having those little tweaks to really, bring that level up. As you can see, they're lovely big suites, really nice when it's all open during the day, and you can sit out on the couches out on that main area. And you can also dine privately here as well. So if guests don't want to go to the main mess, they can dine at their tented suite. We've got flushing toilets and safari showers, and we now actually have running water in the sinks as well. So the safari showers people sometimes worry about. Guests, they will be filled up by a member of staff as and when it's needed, and it's a 40-litre bucket shower, so it comes out of a rainfall head, and it would be very difficult to outlast it. In fact, you can quite often get 2 people through 1 bucket, so it's not. People sometimes worry about running out of water, and it's very, very difficult. We also have the outdoor space here, this lovely outdoor wash area, which kind of is that sort of historic out of Africa style kind of safari. So with the running water, maybe we don't need these anymore, but it is that lovely kind of, it's almost there sort of ornamentally. And then we've got Little Naibor. So Little Naibor, the suites are very similar size to that of main Naibor in terms of you've got that ensuite on the side as well, and then it's just connected by this living area in the middle. So you could really happily fit an extra bed or 2 in the tented suite area. So you could have a family of 6, up to a family of 6 in here. Both Anita and Catherine, my other colleague, have stayed here with their 3 kids, and have been very comfortable in Little Naibor. So the lovely big tented suites, again, you've got flushing toilets, safari shower and running water in the sinks. And it is a slightly different kind of more sort of Moroccan in style in Little Naibor, with some lovely design features. And so here again, guests can dine privately, and families with children, if parents aren't hugely comfortable leaving their kids with, a guard or an askari outside when they go for dinner, they can dine here after kids have gone to bed. So it can sort of work that way as well. And they've also got a lovely fire pit area down by the water. So the main mess area is shared by Little Naibor and main Naibor. There are a few changes that have happened at the main mess area, which we're really excited to get imagery for, which we should hopefully be getting early next year. So this deck area has actually been extended, so it is out over the river a little bit more, and has had a more kind of permanent fixed balustrade put in, so it is a little bit safer being sort of over the river. And then on this sort of the corner here, that sort of hanging over the river, there is a new bar that's been put in, so a sundowner bar. So guests who maybe are making the most of that 4 for 3 offer, maybe don't want to go out and have their sundowner out in the bush that evening, can stay here and have a lovely selection of gins. So that is really, it just adds an extra space and just extends the outdoor space in the main mess area. So also obviously this bit's been wraps around and has some lovely big couches out here now as well for when guests are relaxing in between game drives. And then just a few sort of soft touches will be put in the main mess area as well. So we're really excited to get imagery for those. Now dining can be either hosted dining or private. So it has moved sort of more towards that private dining since COVID, of course. But if guests want to have the kind of hosted dining and certainly meet other people in the camp and want to dine together, then we're very flexible. Lunches are a bit more casual. So as and when guests come back from their game drives, it's a buffet lunch and they can just, take their pick and go and sit anywhere outside. And then, of course, we can set up private dinners in beautiful locations for those honeymooners or people celebrating. We also have a spa tent, so all guests get a sort of free 10-minute massage on arrival, neck and shoulder massage, and then usually you can't resist booking in a massage, especially if you've been in a vehicle for a few days. It's quite nice to have those knots loosened. And then we've got Naibor Wilderness. So Naibor Wilderness is the camp that's sort of set off slightly. It is a slightly lower price point. As you can see, the interiors are slightly more simple in design. Some people actually prefer this design as well. And because it's a smaller camp, it does feel more intimate. There's only 3 tents here, so it's perfect for a small group. We get a lot of photography groups because they've got their private mess area. They can leave their equipment in that private mess area, and it, you know, it is just completely theirs. The whole camp is theirs. And then it's also great for kind of small family groups or people whose budget maybe just doesn't stretch to that of main Naibor. Obviously, if guests are in Wilderness and we have space in main Naibor, then it would be an automatic upgrade on arrival anyway. But many people love Wilderness even more than main Naibor, and come and book here time and again. In this main mess area, there will be a few more bits added, maybe a couple more couches and things like that. So there are a few changes happening here as well. And in terms of for families, as I said, Anita and Catherine, my colleague, they both came here with their kids and had an absolutely amazing time. That is actually Jackson, one of the guides with Anita's daughter Ella, and he was just fantastic with them. He is an ex-primary school teacher and just had an amazing way of explaining things to children that some of us just aren't as good at, and was really brilliant at taking photographs. He's an amazing photographer as well. So they've got some really lovely family photos as well from their trip. And it is just an amazing experience. I think Anita waited until her kids were a little bit older than to take them to Kenya, and they just had the most amazing time. They did a lovely itinerary with the Mara and then Laikipia as well. Now, obviously the main activity in the Mara is game drives. The game here is incredible. There's just such an amazing density. And obviously at that time of year during the migration, it is just so amazing to be in the heart of the reserve near some of those really key crossing sites. It is a Big 5 safari destination. So yeah, guests who are wanting to tick off that Big 5 can certainly do it in the Mara. We can take guests walking. There is no walking in the National Reserve, but we can take guests out. There's an area that we kind of have an agreement to take guests to that's sort of between a couple of conservancies just north of the Mara. So we can take guests out with a ranger to go walking if they're not going on anywhere particularly afterwards where they'll be able to do that. And of course, arranging in advance is always best, but you know, we can do anything when guests are in camp. And then you've also got the cultural visits. So this is actually more pictures of Anita's kids. They had an amazing visit to one of the local villages where actually most of the staff at Naibor come from. So you're meeting the staff's families and it's very personal. It's a really lovely personal experience. And the kids all got involved, and they actually did bring some rugby balls as well. So they got to play rugby with the kids and teach them how to kind of throw a rugby ball, because a lot of them had never seen one before. So it was a really lovely experience, and I definitely recommend it, as particularly for families. I think it's an amazing experience. And then, of course, as I said, the game viewing's amazing. These photos are actually ones taken by Jackson, the guide on Anita and her family's trip down there. So it's exactly what they were seeing. And they had this incredible leopard sighting as well. Now, as I said, it is amazing for the Great Migration. Sort of August through to October is amazing for migration sightings, and we are in a really great location near some really key crossing sites. Now, you know, the Mara does get very busy at this time of year, and what's really nice about being in the reserve is that we kind of the guides know some quieter spots that they can take guests to if it is getting quite busy. And it also means that we can be out for longer because we are so close. We could be out until nearly sundown and then just whiz back to camp in time for the sun setting. So, you know, we are able to be out for a bit longer than those staying outside of the reserve. So just in summary, a kind of overview of Naibor. Really, the location is a big part of what makes Naibor so amazing, being so central in the Mara and close to some amazing locations for general game viewing and also, of course, the migration. You've got 3 different types of accommodation here to suit different budgets and also different demographics. So brilliant for honeymooners in main Naibor, families in Little Naibor, and then those smaller groups, or just those travellers who are a bit more on a budget for Naibor Wilderness. And then, of course, it's a Big 5 safari. It's that kind of classic out of Africa. It's what you think of when you think of safari, or what many of us think of when we think of safari, is Kenya and those wide open plains of the Maasai Mara. So I'll end with a video from Naibor. It's actually narrated by one of the owners, Nigel Archer, who's a 5th generation Kenyan. He's got a very soothing voice, so it would be nice for me to end my day on. And he just, I think hearing from him really brings Naibor to life.
Naibor is a Maasai word, but it basically means clarity, space, whiteness, simplicity. You know, the Mara, until you experience it, is very hard to actually describe. You've got the altitude, you've got the big blue skies, you've got incredible scenery, and the most amazing wildlife. The first time I saw the Mara, it was probably when I was 4 or 5 years old. And I can remember just driving in here with my old man and just seeing the big, beautiful open plains just dotted with wildlife. You know, it inspired me back then, and it still inspires me. Naibor is located in the heart of the Maasai Mara. The beauty of our location, we're right in the middle of where everything happens. And when it comes to the big cats, when it comes to buffalo, elephant, literally everything is on our doorstep. Naibor is a traditional East African safari-style tented camp. Beds are big, spacious, comfortable beds, feather pillows, hot showers, space, simplicity. That's basically what we offer here at Naibor. Exceptional game drives. You can very easily expect to see the Big 5. Some great cultural experiences can be had. Hot air ballooning. If you've been sitting in the car for a few hours, it's quite nice just to be able to have a nice massage. Sundowners are a favourite. You know, when you're coming back in the evening, just had some remarkable game viewing. So then you stop under a tree, have a gin and tonic, watch the sun go down. I think the memories that I'd like guests to take home with them once they've stayed at Naibor is the smiling faces of all the staff, the hippos in front of the camp, the food, comfortable bed, a really nice hot shower. A lot of people will ask me what's special about Naibor. It's just an incredible safari location. For a pure wildlife experience, it's very hard to beat Naibor.
Okay, great. Well, that brings us to the end of the presentation. Please do pop any questions you might have in the Q&A. I'd love to hear from you. If I don't have any now, but you think of some later, please do send them through. We will be following up with the webinar recording, and then also just all the information you'll need on Naibor. So that is rates, fact sheets, images, live availability. And then, of course, do keep an eye on your inboxes next year for updates on some of the small changes that have been made, and also new images that will be getting through, hopefully. We will be doing another webinar in the first quarter of next year anyway to cover this as well. So we hope that we can get all that information out to you ASAP. Now we don't have any questions, so but yeah, as I said, do send them through if you do think of any, and I hope you will have a lovely evening or day wherever you are.